Okay, everybody, hope you're doing marvelously well. Here we are at Summer NAMM, and we're doing frequently asked questions, so Fact Friday. So I'm going to ask a couple of other people, but I'm going to start off with one here. I think this is it's a pretty excellent question. When you're everything, musician, producer, engineer, mixer, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, how do you step back and put yourself in the mindset of a listener? That's a really, really excellent question. I'm going to think about this for a second. I feel like I've been blessed, not so much to always be writing and recording. I've been writing and recording songs my whole life. What I'm blessed with is that I've worked with guitar players like Tim Pierce, drummers like Vinnie Carluta and Victor Indrizzo and Blair Sinter, with bass players like Dan Rothschild and Sean Hurley. When you get to work with musicians who are this great, and you get to push and pull and try ideas with them and interact with them, you learn what works. You really do. My level of creativity has been driven by the creativity of others. So when I have to go in and play a quick drum part, I draw on all of those hundreds of sessions that I've done with the best drummers in the world and go, okay, I should just make this about the groove and pull out one of their simple fills or an album that I listened to and grew up, like a Beatles album or a Queen album or whatever that inspires me. So I have that advantage. I have that advantage of acquired knowledge. So that's the first part. Now the second part, to address your problem as how to remain as a listener, that's difficult. I don't have as big a problem doing that with drums or keys, my two weakest instruments. With bass and guitar, that's where it gets difficult, because what I find the biggest thing for me as a guitar player is I'm overly critical. I want to tighten myself so much that there's no groove left. So the way I get around overthinking and keeping my creativity fresh is I move fast. I move fast. I go in, I play down, I get an idea, I put it down. I don't spend hours perfecting it, because perfecting it can also be making it soulless, removing the groove, removing the feel, turning it into a machine. So I'd rather come up with new ideas than spend hours and hours and hours playing it so machine-like that's got no groove. So the faster I move, the more I don't fall in love with any one given idea, and I'm able to remain somewhat impartial. So move quickly and listen to ideas, continuous ideas that you put down, as opposed to getting so obsessed and spending so much time on one idea that you fall in love with it and lose that impartial way of looking at the idea.
Am I good? Do I sound great? Am I louder than him? Okay, good.
Hey, right answer, put on the chain. All right, we're here. This first booth I come to. Look at that.
Of course. Well, we're honored to have you, Warren.
I'm honored to talk to you.
You should be here.
Okay, good.
Especially talking about the 1173, the 176, which I moved over here.
I want to talk about that for a long time, but I also want to talk about, what's this? Tell me about this.
The Royaltone.
I'm still a guitar player, you see.
You know, again, this is a brainchild of Mark and his forever, well, say his needs when it comes to recording. The Royaltone is an amazing pedal. A lot of people saw it at Winter NAMM. Might have gone by a different name. Might have. You might have had to make some changes. But it's pretty basic. What I did was I took it into a couple of studios in Los Angeles and let people just sit down and play with it. And it was interesting, the hot fuzz, the Royaltone, what folks said. This pedal, as far as like the jack of all trades, the one they'd want in the studio to do just about everything with, that's what this became.
Great.
So in conjunction with a hot fuzz, I mean, it's almost a perfect combination. But this is really the jack of all trades for us.
I love the subtle coloring.
Yeah, very subtle.
Yeah, you're not going to notice this one on your pedal board.
I know, it's hard to notice.
I love it.
Have you tried it?
I haven't tried it, that's the reason why.
That's what we got to do. We got to get one in your hands that you can take home and try.
I definitely want that. And of course, I'm a big fan of this anyway, and I use this all the time, primarily because this is a secret weapon. This gives me Brian May.
It does. It's kind of like, it has this very English sound. When you boost that high end, you get it right back into the sound. I love this pedal. I have two of them.
It's almost as though Mark is from Manchester in England. Oh, wait there. He is. All right.
I mean, I ran a bass through it last week, and it was just such a great sound.
Yeah. My friend Graham from Blur has one of these. Absolutely loves it.
I've never had anybody return one. By the way, I'm Colin from BAE. I don't think I made that clear in the beginning.
I think this is what happens is like we know each other and we forget.
Yeah, we just
I'm
get
Wayne,
talking.
William, Wazza. Oh, that's it. All right, let's go over here.
Okay. I think you recognize the UK sound 1173.
I do.
And if you don't at this point, it's senility has set in, I'm sure.
That's quite likely.
But we are debuting something really cool. People have seen it before, but this is a working unit. This is our 176. So basically, we've taken the compressor from the 1173. We're offering it in a single rack unit, and soon there will be a 276. You'll be able to buy 2 in 1 rack unit.
Great.
Very musical compressor. I was surprised when we came out with the UK Sound line. You know, I thought it's something entry level for folks who want BAE, something designed in California, made in California, not shipped overseas just because it's less expensive. I thought it would be interesting to see where it ends up. Already the 1173s, I'm seeing them in studios. So you and Michael Stuck are getting together with Mark and like putting this whole thing together with us. It's really paid off. And I remember the prototype I tested, terribly musical, very cool product. Now I'm seeing it in studios in groups of 5 and 10. Where people are actually like using them complete drum kits and fantastic.
Because they've got a grit and a grime to them if you want. The thing that I love about it is, first of all, you know, you've got your usual Neve sounding Brie here. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But anyway, I have to be like a Stephen and say British sound.
Yes.
The British sound. But anyway, look, we all know and love the way this sounds, and Stucker did an amazing job of figuring out.
Michael did, yeah.
Yeah, he really did. But because we have a preamp output which drives obviously a fixed threshold 1176 style compressor, you can schnizzle it. You can bring this down here. You can drive it super, super hard, and then annihilate it or choose not to annihilate it with compression. Obviously, you've got the all buttons in over here, which is the exclamation mark.
Yeah.
So it's,
I mean, say no more. It just has so many options. You just don't get that.
I gave the prototype to Barry, Barry Rudolph, and he said, "Do I have to give it back, and when can I get one?"
That's pretty.
He doesn't do that with much else.
Now we've gone ahead and I just put the 73 MPL UK Sound one in the rack for this show, and again, it's this is.
What's this going to be? How much?
Less expensive than the BAE 73 MPL. I'm thinking right around $500-600. Right in that price range. We haven't set it yet.
And what about this? Any idea on this?
Again, we haven't set the pricing yet, so I'm thinking around $600 to $700 for a single unit.
Okay, great. What's an 1176 now? Like $1,800 or something?
Oh no, more than that.
Really?
Oh yeah, but even if you look at some of the other products, they're still much more expensive.
When I was in Indiana working at Mellencamp Studio, Stucker was the house guy there.
Yeah.
And he's a professor at IU. And he makes all of the students build component kit versions
that's fantastic.
of 1176. And it's about just component-wise, it's just a few $100s. And you're thinking to yourself, they want $2,000 for an 1176.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. So
I mean, and these are peppy little compressors, as you well know from working with the 1173.
Perfect. So we're going to do a giveaway. Colin has generously donating this. All you have to do, there'll be links here or there or all around and everywhere.
Yeah, we'll work it out so you can register to win, and you'll get one of the very first Royaltones from California.
Beautiful. I'm excited. And I haven't even heard it yet.
I know.
Well, I watched a video of somebody using it. It's not quite the same as playing it.
No.
But if it's 1/10 as good as a Hot Fuzz, I'm very happy.
Oh, I think folks will be very happy. Of course, the best is to have both.
Marvelous. Hi, Gena Johnson. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
So I've heard lots of wonderful things about you.
Thank you.
Now you're born and bred in Nashville?
No, I'm from Minnesota originally.
Minnesota, sorry.
Yep. Moved to Nashville.
How long have you been here?
I've been here for almost 7 years.
Wow.
Yep.
And did you come here and do school here, or had you already done that?
I went to school in Minnesota and then moved here for an internship.
Where did you intern?
Welcome 1979.
Oh, well, hence why Chris Mara's over there.
Exactly.
So you interned there.
I did. I learned all about, soldering and refurbishing tape machines, MCI tape machines, working on consoles, and so I really got, the tech bug right away as well, which I think is super important if you're an engineer to be able to fix things as well. So.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm that good at it. It sounds like you can come and fix my console.
Hey, just
so
call.
all right, do it. No, so you started off assisting, and then just tell us a bit about your journey.
So I interned for about 3 months there, and the day after my internship ended, I became the house assistant. I've been freelance since I've been in town, and I got to work with a lot of great people at 79, you know, learned a ton, and then I randomly did a show like this. It was on a lot smaller scale, and I ended up meeting Michael Wagner, who was, you know, mixed Metallica, Master of Puppets, did Ozzy Osbourne, you know, Alice Cooper, tons of stuff. And
one of my best friends is Greg D'Angelo, who's the drummer of White Lion.
Oh,
so
yes, yes, that's awesome. Yeah. So I love Michael. He's one of my best friends, and he, you know, taught me as an assistant, and I turned into his engineer, and where he was producing, and he's like, you know, you just go, you know, if you get too out of the realm of, you know, what I don't want to hear, I'll cut you back, but you know, we were right in line. And
perfect.
Yeah, so we did a lot of work together, and dove into Kemper amps, which was really fun too, and made some profiles for that. And after working for Michael for a couple of years, I was just around town doing a lot of the 10-2s and 6s, sort of, you know, country demos and things like that.
Yep.
And got to work at Blackbird, House of Blues, yes. The Castle was one of my very first big sessions with like the A players, you know, very intimidating but super fun.
Great.
And then I got the opportunity to work at RCA Studio A for Ben Folds. So
lovely.
That was awesome. And as soon as I got there, it was all women working there, which was also a really unique, cool thing.
Very unique, yeah.
So there was a girl working on a whirly pedal, Leslie Richter. She's awesome. And I was like, no way. You know, no way is she just like hanging out here or whatever. Because I hadn't worked with women in the business before. I just kind of figured, well, you know, they're like me, sure. And then I took the position as the house assistant there as well. There were a couple of us, and just worked almost every single day. And then and I'd get opportunities sometimes to be the head engineer if people would come in and not have, you know, an engineer lined up.
Great.
And then I got close with Ben Folds, and he flew me out to Chicago to record one of his songs on his latest record, So There. And also I met Kacey Musgraves through RCA, and she's hired me multiple times to be her engineer as well.
That's amazing.
We just did this super fun thing. It's called the Restoration Album. Elton John and Brandi Tappan songs, and so she covered the song Roy Rogers, and I got to engineer and mix that, and that was awesome. So to get praise from Elton John, that was a huge deal.
That's massive.
Yes.
Very impressed.
So, so then I've just been at RCA with Ben Folds, and then working with Dave Cobb for the last 2.5 years.
Are you over with Dave?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay,
yes,
great.
I love it. I've gotten great opportunities through RCA and just through Dave.
So did you work with Daryl as well then?
Yes, Daryl Thorpe.
Yeah, I just worked with him last week.
Yes,
yeah. It's great.
Yeah, he's one of my good friends too.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
I'm going to text him in a minute.
Heck yeah.
That's great. Well, some congratulations. I mean, how are you finding? You've obviously had a great meteoric rise, pretty much in 7 years in Nashville.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any tips or tricks? Let's try this. If you had like a desert island, could only have one mic, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like the response everybody says is an SM57, right?
That's
a lot of it, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really love a good 67, or, you know, or even the old vintage ribbon mics, you know, like 77s or something. And
sure.
So I get really, there was this record that Dave and I did with this artist, Coulterwall. He's a Canadian artist, and we got really nerdy. It took a whole day, and we were just going through, like, you know, preamps and compressors and microphones and just matching impedance on everything.
Right.
And just being like, okay, what sounds the best, you know? And we searched all day for that perfect combination.
Fantastic.
So we were like ready for him. So
that's great.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I think Yeah, picking a ribbon's actually not a bad idea, because if you pick a ribbon, it's very stylistic. You're going to make a record that has that sound.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are striving for that a lot. And what they're missing is they're not starting with that. So it's like, if you record it, like a lot of the records, you know, Dave does, is he has the room, right? RCA Studio A, it's amazing. It's my favorite room in town. And then he's also using those vintage pieces and really honing in on that. And that has turned my mind around, being like, okay, it's the way you do it. You know, I mean, Michael's the same way. You know, he says placing the first mic is when you begin mixing. You know, and I've kept that along with me the whole way.
I agree, and I feel like it's, when you walk into a room and there's some history, there's some heritage,
Totally.
it's sort of inspiring. The musicians feel like they're part of something. I'm the same. I live in Los Angeles, so I like to go to Sunset Sound a lot.
Oh, yes.
Because when I was a kid, I bought records and looked on the back and saw recorded at Sunset Sound. I'm like, I have to go there.
Yes.
And you go into the room and you're like, wow, this Doors record I love is recorded in this room.
If the walls could speak, right?
Yeah, exactly. And regardless of whether the room is amazing or not, they're all amazing. It's more about what it makes me feel, what the musicians feel. They feel inspired.
Yeah, I think one thing that I'm really good at, if I was going to pick one thing to go off of what you just said, is it's like I try to make it feel like home for everybody that comes in. It's huge to me. You know, it's like whether you're in a very light space with windows, or you know, you're in a more closed off place that, you know, kind of feels dark. It's like if it's a female artist coming in, I always have a bouquet of flowers there for them, and you know, specific.
Remember that bouquet of flowers for female artists? All right, you hear that?
I always make sure, you know, if they're gluten-free or if there's anything, you know, I'm sure that's probably a studio management job or something.
Sure.
But I just take it into account, okay, what are they going to need? What's going to make them feel comfortable? The first time I worked with Kacey, she called me her tea fairy, because she had no idea, like, how she kept getting warm tea to her station, you know, and it was in between every song I'd go and I just, you know, put a fresh cup of tea there, so then she wouldn't have to think about it. It's like, if we can create that sort of environment.
Have you read the Phil Ramone book?
I have not.
He talks about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really weird, because Phil Ramone, arguably top 2 or 3 greatest producers that ever lived. I had the pleasure of meeting him, and I was just terrified, because it was just a few weeks before he died of cancer, and he's standing there holding a chart, and he's with the arranger, and he's got a pencil out, changing the arrangement.
Yeah.
Well, there's an orchestra sitting there waiting, and I was with Jack Douglas, and I pointed to Phil Ramone, and I went, look, a real producer.
Right? Oh,
we're like laughing about it. I mean, like, I'm saying that to Jack Douglas of all people, but it just goes to show you that sort of level. So you read his book, knowing that that's where he came from, and then he spends massive amounts of time talking about the psychology of working with artists, about getting them comfortable, making sure everything is just right so they can focus on their art, and distraction as well. Sometimes taking them out of themselves, so not obsessing too much.
Yes, yes.
So it's great.
Yeah, I'll have to read that book.
It's awesome. I mean, it's fantastic. When he's sharing how he got performances from Barbra Streisand, Sinatra, or Nat King Cole, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to that.
How do I do that? Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
Man.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too. I'm going to text Dave next, and Daryl.
Yes, definitely. Please do.
All right.
Tell them hello.
All right, so here's a Fact Friday question.
Okay, I'm ready.
How would one deal with an artist that doesn't want suggestions, and how do you keep from getting into an argument about it?
I think never say no. I would say try going down their path if it really means that much to them. If they're at a confrontational point, hopefully it never gets to that. Sure. But I would go down that road and see. But I would also have them try my way as well. And just see it out. And then, okay, did you like this? Did you like your way? How can we compromise there? How can we bring maybe both of our ideas together?
Right.
Sometimes, you know, they're just stuck on an idea because that's what the, you know, demoitis or whatever, they have to do it. And I feel like there's always a way to incorporate it.
Absolutely.
A lot of times what I'm seeing now is, you know, especially with like female artists, they're kind of just feel like they're not a part of their record.
Sure.
Like a lot of the country people, I don't know, I feel it's really important to be a part of that, even if it's in the mixing stage or, you know, whatever it is. But
yeah, I see that. I mean, country, but definitely in pop.
Oh, for sure.
In pop, it's horrific.
It's like, yeah, it's like, okay, karaoke track, and then you put somebody's voice on it, but
Here's
did they
the
actually have a voice?
Yeah, here's the demo
in
singer,
that?
we need you to re-sing it like this.
Yeah. So I feel like involving the artist and making them feel comfortable and validated is a huge, huge thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Because kids buy the artist and the song. They don't buy the producer,
Absolutely.
the engineer, the mixer.
And they're the ones that has to live with it. You know, as producers, engineers, we get to move on. We get to work on multiple projects. But as
they
an
have
artist,
one career themselves.
Exactly. So I think to value that is a really important thing.
Yep, I agree. Great answer.
Yeah. Thanks.
So we have Johnathan Pines here. So I'm looking through the Fact Friday questions, seeing I think something that would be pertinent. And this is a good question.
I think I'm in trouble.
This is a good question. Is hardware really necessary?
Is hardware really necessary? Okay, so one take on all this. I'm not a Luddite. I use plugins.
Right.
Plugins have gotten a lot better. One of the things that modeling still has a distance to go at, and this is a perfect example of it. If I take a snapshot of you, I see you. I see you in this position. But I don't get the subtlety that I see in real life, where I can see shadow, I can see changes in your face, I can see your muscles move differently. I can see a lot of subtle things that I don't get out of one snapshot, or even if I took 10 snapshots, let's say. So modeling still has, I think, quite a ways to go from that dynamic perspective. So as you use gear dynamically, in other words, you push the output of a mic preamp. All right, well, if that happens in a non-linear way, it happens in an ever-changing dynamic way, how it saturates, how it changes the tone. There's a lot of things in pop and rock that really do change based on the input. So that's one answer. The other answer is we still need to record our records. So we need mic preamps, we need compression. And I think you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, that we like to make choices, we like to commit, we like to make records that sound good from the get-go. We like to make decisions, we don't want to wait. Nobody likes to sit down and mix with 480 tracks. Anybody who tells you that is insane, first off. People like to have things that work together. You make a better record if it sounds good from the get-go, if you hear things. Hardware can help you do that, because you'll have one chance to make those choices when you're going in A to D. You have a chance later on, you're mixing, but you can make choices at that point in time. Don't be afraid of making choices. If I had one thing I would sort of say to produce like a pros audience, which is experiment, try things. You rarely find those things when you trust your gut and make a thing like, I want that a little brighter, or I need to move the mic a little bit, or I want to use a little more compression. Rarely do I get to the place where I feel like I'm boxed in and, oh no, I can't do that. We've become a society in the auto community that doesn't want to make a choice, that wants to wait to the last minute. Hardware allows you to make good choices from the get-go. How's that for an answer?
No, I like that. You need to find your own creativity and your own path. Sometimes, obviously there's nothing more important than the artist and the song. That's the most important thing. The song, artist, that's the king. But for each individual producer and engineer, mixer, musician, choosing tools that are specific to you. Like I just, we're just talking to Gena, and Gena's working with Dave Cobb. And the thing about Dave is he's camped out in Studio A and RCA. He's got a lot of vintage equipment, and he has an aesthetic. You walk into that room, you feel the history of being in that room. You see a RCA ribbon mic.
You get excited by that. A chance to using something.
And it allows that artist to feel like, oh, this is some of the gear and in the room that made the record that inspired me to be in this room in the first place. Yeah. So that cannot be underestimated, even though the song and the singer is most important.
Well, and let's also be honest.
You want to inspire your artists, is what I'm saying.
You also want to be inspired yourself. When you go to work, a new piece of gear that you can touch and use your senses and everything with can inspire you to work. You get a new plug-in, you're not rushing in the studio to try it. Yeah. You get a new mic or a new mic preamp or a new compressor, you might rush in the studio to put it in work.
So I think if you're working in isolation and you're a mixer, if your setup is a pair of headphones and a small mini monitors and a laptop and you are mixing the best records in the world, God bless you. But when you have an artist come in the room, they won't necessarily feel that confident or that connected to the art. But from a mixing perspective, when people ask me that, I'm like, what works? Whatever works.
But I also know you're an SSL guy. You like to sit down at your desk.
I do, and when artists come in, even 15 years old to 50 years old, they like seeing the console. They really do.
And
They
there's
do.
a workflow when you're not just staring at the screen, when you can be listening, using all your brain to listen to music, and reach and touch things without having to stop, look for a page, grab the mouse, try and find something.
Right.
There's a little different workflow with that where you can leave that process a little bit and immerse yourself more in the act of actually making music, which is always going to end up making a better record.
But I do think the honest answer is what really works for individuals, because I think some people don't want faders because they don't understand, because they grew up with it. And I don't feel like somebody's 13 years old and they're starting to make music and they've got their path. I want to sort of encourage that, because I think it's really super important. The one thing that always worries me when they don't understand what we're saying is that it sounds like we look down on somebody who does it a different way.
No, but I also encourage people starting out that get 2 good things of everything. Get 2 good mic preamps, 2 good compressors, 2 good equalizers, 2 good microphones, probably more than 2 microphones at the end of the day. But have things that work well, because these are tools you'll keep all your life. You'll use them every time you make a record. And favorite hardware can fall into that exact thing, in that your plugins will change, your workstation will change, your work mode will change.
I'm waiting for the guy or girl that goes and buys a used RCA microphone, gets themselves, a Rupert Neve pre and a laptop, and makes a record only using that. And it's a beautiful sounding record. You know what I mean? That's what I'm excited about. Maybe somebody that says, this is my sound. I record everything with a ribbon, and I have a way of making this feel really good. Because we've all, remember the Shins with the 57 and the VS880 Roland? Well, wouldn't it be so much cooler with the laptop and the...
But I mean,
But it's a good illustration of what you can do. You can create a sound and an approach that's unique to you.
And I think speaking to, it doesn't just require $1,000 tools. You can make a great record with a PreSonus interface and a 57.
Absolutely.
Or a Scarlett and a 57. Or an Apollo and a 57. You can make fabulous records that way. It's about music at the end of the day. And I'll take the cheapest interface and the cheapest microphone and a great song over any of that, and I will make a great record with that.
I agree.
And I think you can never lose sight of that. And that, to speak to, you're not wanting to feel like we're talking down to someone who doesn't have an expensive piece of gear. It is about music. Never forget that.
My biggest selling song I ever worked on, ever recording, is How to Save a Life. I did the drums on a TAC Scorpion, which after we got that API,
Graham Langley, yes.
I sold that console for $750. Now they're going back up in value because people are like, whoa, wait there. Affordable AMEC console, I can get 24 channels for $1,500. I mean, that's what they go for now, but still. But that's my point. I'm the living, that song was the most downloaded digital song of all time up until a few years ago on a TAC Scorpion. It was a great song.
Great song, great players, great song.
Great song and a great drummer, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, much love to Produce Like a Pro.
All right, so we're very late and great, the wonderful, amazing Mr. Larry Craig. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Thanks for agreeing to do this. Let's go with the question.
We have a question.
Are there ways in which you use/create silence in a mix to add depth?
Exactly, I do.
You do, great.
So what I look for, like when I'm given tracks to mix from someone else, I look for all those spots in the song where some of the instruments or all the instruments drop out.
Yeah.
And I listen to those sections really intently, and I go through all the instruments, and I try to figure out if there's ambience that some are leaving in the background that needs to be there, and I try to look for things that shouldn't be there, like amp buzz or something, and I clean things out. I go into Isotope RX a lot, and I'll clean little things out, and I'll leave some. I'll never like to make a digital silence. I'm really nervous about digital silence.
Sure.
But I'll mute a lot or delete a lot of information that doesn't need to be there. I'll keep certain bits of background noise. And by doing that, I think that you create more of a dynamic shift and keep the listener engaged. Like if they hear a little bit of like room tone on a drum set or cymbal decay, of course, or if they sometimes hear a little bit of like anticipation of a guitar or bass hit, like some kind of, they can feel hands on strings moving a little bit. Just
Right.
certain little sounds, and I want to keep that like super quiet, but in there that they feel something's going to happen.
Great.
So like that, I think that sort of attention to those little spots on the song can make the songs feel more dynamic and more exciting, and then you get more excited about what happens
Sure.
next. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like-
do lots of that.
Like a little pickup selection
Oh,
claim.
oh yeah, just a little slightest tone. I might even turn it down, or I might even take a sound like that and put it into reverb way in the background.
Yeah.
Just so you feel like something's happening.
Great.
You know, you don't know what quite is going to happen. You know.
Excellent.
And I always sit and think about when I put a backwards sound. Do I need to do those kind of tricks? You know,
Yeah.
leading into the hit, or how does it enter? You know, and I'm always trying to also see, like, you know, if there's any kind of a drum time keeping, like, can I take it out? Would that work
Yeah.
better? Or does it have to stay in there to keep something happening? Or do I turn just the room mics on for that?
Great.
So by silencing some of the other stuff, I make little tiny elements more important.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Great answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Does the Academy have anything to offer aspiring artists, or is it mixing, mastering focused? That's a wonderful, wonderful question as I tangle myself up. It's really artist focused, because even though it's about producers, engineers, and mixers, of which I allegedly am all of those things, I got into the music industry because I loved music and I learned to play guitar, and I love all things guitar. So we're in a whole new world now, and the new world is about anybody that can play an instrument, can record themselves, can do something truly wonderful. So I'm all about artists. We just did a masterclass, and there was at least 2 or 3 artists there that came to learn how to produce and engineer and mix their own music. And then inside of our academy, we have about 1,100 people, and many, many, many of them are musicians or singer-songwriters. And the great thing about it is we have a community of 1,100 people which help each other out. So you can find people in there that will help you produce and engineer and mix your music as well. It's a wonderful community. So yes, we have a lot to offer. Thank you ever so much for watching. That's fun to do the frequently asked questions from Summer NAMM, which is an amazing place. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Please go to producelikeapro.com, download a whole bunch of free stuff, and have a marvelous time recording and mixing.